Dear teacher trainees, you are welcome to my class. And today I'm planning to present before you this lesson entitled Education is Human Discipline. So to begin with, let me start with the discussion on the concept of the term discipline. As mentioned, discipline refers to a branch of academic study. Psychology, sociology, anthropology, mathematics, and philosophy, as for example, are all disciplines. So this can mostly be seen in higher education institutions such as universities. So this, however, doesn't denote that disciplines cannot be seen in other educational settings such as schools. So, for example, mathematics is a school subject that is also a discipline and is found in higher education institutions. Disciplines usually consist of theoretical backgrounds, research and experiments, group of experts in the discipline, etc. A person who is pursuing his studies in a particular discipline not only gains in-depth understanding of it, but also conducts experiments of research as well. So such a person is concerned is specializing in the chosen discipline. Am I right? Then what is academic discipline? Well, the term discipline originates from the Latin words discipulus, which means pupil, and disciplina, which means teaching. So discipline is defined by the Oxford English Dictionary as a branch of learning or scholarly instruction. A discipline is a branch of learning or domain of knowledge that is characterized by distinct objects, concepts, principles, theories, skills, tools, and applications. Academic discipline is a branch of knowledge incorporates expertise, people, projects, communities, challenges, studies, inquiry, and research areas that are strongly associated with a given academic discipline. For example, the branches of sciences are commonly referred to as the scientific disciplines. So this includes physics or mathematics or computer science, as for example. Then what are the characteristics of disciplines? Let me tell you one by one. First, disciplines have a particular object of research. For example, law, society, politics. Uh, though the object of research may be shared with another discipline. Second, disciplines have a body of accumulated specialist knowledge referring to their object of research, which is specific to them and are not generally shared with another discipline. Third, disciplines have theories and concepts that can organize the accumulated specialist knowledge effectively. Fourth, disciplines use specific terminologies or a specific technical language adjusted to their research objects. Fifthly, disciplines have developed specific research methods according to their specific research requirements and maybe most crucially. And finally, disciplines must have some institutional manifestations in the form of a subject taught at universities or colleges, respective academic departments, and professional associations connected to it. Now, let me explain on the typology of discipline. Anthony Biglan in 1973, based on empirical research, drew distinction between discipline based on three dimensions. First, he found difference in the degree to which one paradigm exists in a discipline. Say, for example, hard or soft. For discipline with one important paradigm, there is more consensus about method of study and content, for example, physics, than in discipline without a single paradigm, for example, humanities. So secondly, Beglan distinguished discipline based on the degree of concern with application in terms of pure or applied. Disciplines like education and engineering is more concerned with application to practice, if I have not mistaken. Finally, a distinction was drawn between disciplines concerning biological or social areas and those that are concerned with inanimate objects in terms of life or non-life. So Becher in 1989 modified Biglan's typology based on two dimensions, which resulted in four different types of disciplines, which include hard or pure, hard applied, soft pure, and soft applied. So now, during this course of discussion, one question comes in the mindset, and that question is, why should education is to be considered as a discipline? Uh, the answer is, education itself has its own independent language system. Second, the scope and the subject matter of education is well defined. And thirdly, education has its own theory and practice. So, depending on these three answers to this question, education can be considered as a discipline. So now, in the context of Indian education system, the development of education as a discipline is of recent one. It was only in the second half of the 19th century when education was introduced as a discipline in the university setup, and it was in the year 1931 that the University of Kolkata introduced education as a university subject, and in 1943, Bombay University instituted MEd course. Here is a long list of major focal areas of education as a discipline. So this includes teacher education, education guidance and counseling, education planning and management, demographic education, comparative education, special education, distance education, inclusive and intercultural education, curriculum development, educational measurement and evaluation, physical education, computer education, peace education, value education, sex education. So these variety of focal areas of the subject make it a discipline. So taking into consideration the existing system of education prevalent in the country, we can think of six different levels of education, and these consist of pre-primary level, primary level of education, secondary level of education, higher education level of education, special education, then adult education. Yes. Is education a social science or not? Well, Merriam-Webster's dictionary gives three definitions of social science. First, social science is any discipline or any branch of science that deals with the sociocultural aspects of human behavior. Second, social science is a branch of science that deals with the institutions and functioning of human society and with the interpersonal relationships of individuals as members of society. Third, a science is anthropology or social psychology is, for example, dealing with a particular phase or aspect of human society. So, an analysis of education on these three different definitions shows that education is also a social science, is it deals with investigating the sociocultural aspect of humans because sociocultural aspect of any society gives shape to the education pattern of this society. Education again has unlimited scope of study and field of investigations. So let me explain on that. Study of education is concerned with the most important process of human life, that is making a child a perfect human being by nurturing and educating him, right? Education, whether formal or informal, influences the whole life of the child. So therefore, education is the study of this process, investigates all the aspects of human life that can be shaped through educating. Scope of education not only deals with studying different factors affecting educating in the formal settings, that is schools, but also through various informal agencies like family, society, and peer groups. And again, various political, societal, then demographical, economic, cultural, and moral aspects of society also affect process of education. Again, in the study of education, theory and the practice are closely interrelated. Mind you, uh, in education, both theory and practice are closely interrelated and are complementary to each other. Education is not purely a theoretical discipline and not only the practical discipline. However, due to the close link with teaching and other practice-oriented activities, it is mainly considered as a practical discipline. Education by nature is both an art and a science. So education may be regarded both as a science and an art since it consists of theoretical as well as practical knowledge and skills derived through various artistic and scientific methods and aims at achieving desired objectives by applying them in human behaviors and practices. So these two aspects in this discipline are in close association and complementary to each other. Education is again professional as well as liberal study. I'm telling, I'm telling you, academic study is an integral part of the professional study in education. Its scholars include academicians, practitioners, as well as researchers. Educational studies engages students in the investigation of educational theory, policy, research, and practice from a variety of disciplinary perspectives. And thus, it encourages think critically and creatively about the processes of teaching and learning and about the place of education in society. It also prepares students to enter the teaching profession for and to work in the areas of educational research, educational administration, curriculum development, or policy planning. A study of education again caters to the needs of diverse groups. Let me explain. To meet the needs of all learners in an era of rapidly increasing racial, ethnic, and linguistic diversity, and the technological change, education does every possible effort, right? Education prepares educators, researchers, and other professionals who develop the policies, curriculum, learning materials, and the methods to fulfill the needs of learners of different groups, which include children, adults, women, teachers, and differently able individuals. So it's different branches like early childhood education, elementary education, secondary education, higher education, teacher education, adult education, special education, women education. All these types of education are dedicated to different groups of learners. Mind you, education is, after all, a discipline of great social value. So, do you believe it or not? I will explain. There is no need to describe the significance of discipline of education in development of a society. A study of education prepares teachers with desirable skills and attitude to understand the needs of individuals in society, to serve the society, to act as a leader, and to motivate, guide the people, to bring desirable changes in the society, and so on. So education prepares educators, develop curriculum and methods to educate different people and provides guarantee for employment. Education is, after all, the study of studies or learning about learning. In other disciplines, as we observe, area of study and investigation are strictly delimited. However, such delimitations cannot be drawn in academic study and research in education. So I am very, very proud of this. A study of education involves a study of many other disciplines, not just for embracing the content with educationally significant inputs of other disciplines, but also to study uh, nature of different subjects. So by studying nature and objectives of different subjects, educationists develop content, knowledge transaction methods, and teaching learning materials for different levels and kinds of learners. My dear teacher trainees, I'm placing before you that education is the meeting point of specialists of different discipline and different backgrounds. In education, different individuals come from different disciplinary backgrounds and bring together the methods and the traditions of their own fields. While dealing with any educational issue, they also use expertise of their parent disciplines, resulting in treatment of the problems with all the possible angles. Education, on one side, is positivistic, and on another side, it is existentialistic. In education, on the one hand, we dealt with quantitative measurement, predictability, the probability, experimentation, and the whole domain of positivism. So, on the other hand, we have to deal with the values, emotions, qualities, individual differences, and with the existential aspects of education. The discipline of education maintains a balance between two different approaches while using them together or separately. Education serves as a balance between individualistic and the societal needs. A study of education makes us learn to maintain a balance between individualistic and the societal needs at each and every step of education process. For example, while planning policies or curriculum, selecting teaching methods or organizing classrooms and co-curricular activities or selecting research projects and deducing implications of researches, educators try to consider needs of both the individual and the society. But friends, unfortunately, there are controversies related with the disciplinary status of education. The point is that, as discussed above, due to different controversies, discipline of education finds it difficult to have a satisfactory status in the academic world. So, nature of this discipline is so distinct that different scholars give different academic status to it. Even after accepting it a discipline, academicians find it difficult to place it in an appropriate disciplinary category. So that is the problem we are facing even at this moment. But at least solution of a controversial issue is very necessary, as we have already discussed that in spite of many unique features, education faces identity crisis due to many controversies associated with, right? So therefore, such controversial issues should be discussed with utmost priority, and a balanced and justified solution of all such issues should be found out. A similar effort has been done in the following points. Please do bear with me. Uh, Let us discuss the followings. First, whether education is discipline or non-discipline. Let us try to find out the answer to this question. Any field of study, whether large or small, pure or applied, old or new, can be called a discipline. So do you understand my point? The term is used only to designate a branch of knowledge that can be studied, researched, and taught. The all rigorous criteria cannot be justifiably applied to today's hybrid, applied, and professional studies. So it has not been a matter of much concern that which is the discipline and which is not a discipline or field of study. So to that extent, education is a discipline. Is education established discipline or emerging or evolving discipline? Yes, in academic world, please listen carefully. Some all disciplines as philosophy, physics, history, etc. are termed as established disciplines, and the disciplines like education in our case, information technology, and journalism are termed as emerging disciplines. However, no discipline can be considered completely established, right? With the passage of time, each discipline suffers from a state of turmoil and the transition due to change of societal needs and the specialization of knowledge, and hence it becomes compulsory for any discipline to revise and update its existing trends and to explore new dimensions of knowledge. So to that extent, education itself can be considered as an established or emerging or evolving or the like. Then whether education is professional study or academic study, the answer is what types of courses. I mean, general education course as well as teacher education courses are prevalent in education, in colleges and universities. Education as a subject claims to be both academic and professional in nature. However, there are different views regarding this matter, and a majority of educators want to maintain its status both as an academic study as well as a professional study. Is education a theoretical discipline or a practical discipline? Well, in different classification systems, education is classified as a practical discipline rather than theoretical one. And at the present moment, consideration of education as a practical discipline seems more justifiable. However, continuous specialization and generation of a large body of knowledge generates the possibility to develop it both as a theoretical as well as a practical discipline. Another important question attached to the study of education is whether education is a pure discipline or applied discipline. So let me try to answer to this question. Education can never be considered as a pure discipline. The conception of education as an applied discipline is an inadequate defense of its distinctness from other disciplines. Education has not remained just an application of theoretical recommendations of foundational disciplines, but an area which includes many subdisciplines in addition to teacher education. So, as an area of study, it has many possibilities to be developed as a distinct field of study. Is education interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, or transdisciplinary? Although most of the social sciences are either interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary and sometimes transdisciplinary in nature and are used interchangeably in education, this term refers to the involvement of multiple disciplines to varying degree on the same continuum. So thus the terms should not be used interchangeably due to difference in their meanings. So this is my observation. Well, friends, is education as a discipline of disciplines? Yes. Education studies the nature of other disciplines and accordingly suggests the suitable methods to teach and learn them, strategies to develop their curriculum, and evaluation methods to judge the outcomes. In addition, it guides the policy making for the whole system of education and prepares effective teachers for teaching different subjects. So, therefore, education can be considered as a field of study and can be designed as study of studies. Now, with regard to the solution of the problems associated inherent with education, there is need to end the internet politics and disagreement among the scholars, among the educationists. The discipline of education is full of many possibilities to be developed as a unique field of study. However, there is a great need to overcome the disorganization and internal politics in its study. So, in other words, there is an urgent need of disciplined study and management of the discipline of education. There is a need for enrichment of content, theories, and methods in the study of education. So Molebas in 1990 remarks in this concern, it is no secret that our education system is slow to adopting innovations. The old adage, the only constant in life is change, has really been applied to education. There is an urgent need to enrich its content and methods. Regarding the aims and objectives of studying education, uh, It is meant to prepare excellent scholars, researchers, and professionals having full understanding of foundational disciplines and knowledge of ICT with a vision to fulfill the loopholes of education systems and with the ability to contribute in enriching the study and research in education. So let me touch upon the subject matter of education in brief. In this age of globalization and information technology, we cannot limit educational studies to the study of theories and the principles borrowed from philosophy, psychology, history, sociology, and few more disciplines. Rather, focus must be given to the emerging needs of our education system, individuals, and our society. Educational content should be a proper blend of theory and practice, and the domination of foundational disciplines be minimized. So, regarding the research conducted in the field of education, the following suggestion is being put forward before you. A great deal of questionable psychological and sociological research in education which prove invalid or of no use to the practicing thesis in the classrooms are very, very numerous. I may be wrong. Instead of research to enrich content, theory and methods of education is subject of study, rebuilding teacher model and developing lifelong learning opportunities for teachers that encourage creativity, accompanying quality improvement programs should be encouraged. There is a strong need of monitoring of research quality and regulation of commercialization of academic activities in education. So, being an area of huge social importance, quality research are mandatory in education. However, research in education is at the lowest level of intellectual hierarchy. Efforts should be done in this regard to encourage quality research in education. And in addition to the low quality research, a business of publication and the worthless seminars and the conferences that are trending in education adversely affect the dignity of education, rather enriching the discipline. And therefore efforts must be given to inspect the overall system of education and accordingly suggest strategies for better development. And instead of commercialization, focus must be given on enriching content and methods of education. There is again need for development of life practices based theories. Whether education should develop its own theories or should utilize theories of its foundational disciplines is still a matter of debate. The goal of developing a general theory of emergency management should be a top priority in a discipline like education, where matters of both theory and practice are of great concern, and the range of perspectives widens even further in an effort to satisfy the demands of both scholars and practitioners. I should say there should be no comparison with other field of study with education. So this is my humble suggestion. Any discipline can never be compared with other more or less developed disciplines in order to praise or question its status as a field of study. Inspiration from other more developed disciplines can be taken, but education must be developed as education only. A clear demarcation between liberal and the professional courses must be made. Since programs in other disciplines are either liberal or professional in nature, there should be proper demarcation between the two types of academic programs offering education without much difference in their objectives, content, and scope. If both the programs are needed, then it is necessary to clearly define their objectives, content, and scope of study. uh, Establishment of separate faculty of education in all universities is highly demanded. You see, the placing of education in different faculties of different universities cannot be set as a good practice. Concerned administrators should urgently try to maintain uniformity in this concern. However, persuasion of education programs in separate faculty of a university would be more beneficial for the growth of this unique discipline. So, my dear teacher trainees, now let me come to the conclusion. Education fulfills most of the criteria and has unique features to be recognized as a respectable academic discipline. It has many qualities which set it apart from other disciplines or sometimes beyond a usual disciplinary frame. However, nature of this discipline is very different from some commonly accepted and well-known disciplines. Disputes on its disciplinary nature arise and it becomes difficult to decide the academic status suitable for education. So, as a result, the status as a discipline becomes disputable. Further, many controversies are also associated with the discipline that again pose threat to its disciplinary identity. So, a very unique thing which I want to declare is that in comparison to other disciplines like physics, chemistry, history, and economics, the discipline of education is more human, more dynamic, more contextual, more cultural specific, and side by side, it promotes human welfare and the growth. It's very, very flexible, it's very, very liberal. To that extent, I would like to conclude that uh, education is a discipline. It is, after all, a human discipline. So with this, let me say thank you very much for attending to my class.